to be respectful in those areas, and what do you say to people who may be travelling there?
Well, by all means, people should travel to these places and learn about them, but the key here is being educated and understanding why these places are important, why they're significant, and not just because of their significance on the maps that we create in colonial society, but the history.
I guess someone had a little mingle while I was gone.
The true significance of the land and the rock is to the Anangu people. Some do, obviously, because they engage with the local people, and so I would, encourage people to visit these places, but be respectful that touching them and walking on them, for example, is damaging. As humans, we damage these things, and we have an obligation, I think, to ensure that these things succeed us and last long beyond us, so that our children and their grandchildren can get to see them in a similar way to the way that the Great Barrier Reef Marine Park is trying to preserve the Great Barrier Reef from the damage that we're causing.
All right, Dr. Andrew Peters, who is an expert in Indigenous Studies and Tourism, lecturer. Thank you so much for joining us on Hack. And we're getting heaps of texts on this. Jack from Parkdale says all of these people who are climbing the rock are kidding themselves. They lack empathy and respect for the oldest surviving culture in the world. It's an absolute farce.
Hack. A mental illness where you don't have the skills and tools to be able to regulate your emotions.
On Triple J.
Have you ever heard someone say, oh yeah, that person's got borderline personality disorder? It seems like one of those terms that people throw around a lot because someone may be moody or seem like a different person from one day to the next. Well, we're going to find out exactly what this complex condition is. Up to 1 million people are living with the disorder, but there's so little known about it. And if you've got BPD or know someone with it, give me a call, 1300 055 36. Shalala Medora has been digging into what living with this disorder is actually like.
Yes, worries and concerns about other people's perceptions for me started in puberty like they do with others. But when I was about 14 or 15, I started going to a psychologist.
That's journalist Eliza Burlage. You might recognise her voice. She's been on the Shake Up a few times before and has always been really open about her mental health concerns.
Coming into year 11 and 12, I was quite anxious and withdrawn at school.
Eliza was diagnosed with social anxiety and depression when she was still a teenager.
Feeling like something was missing, like something wasn't right with me, and that I was just a little bit broken and difficult and self-sabotaging.
But when the stress of school intensified, so did her symptoms.
1 or 2 times a week at least, I'd be crying at my desk or end up in a teacher's office, just sobbing and just having like wild mood swings.
As Eliza grew older, her life experiences brought about new challenges.
Started having my first adult relationships, having quite weird outbursts of anger to those partners. I could be the most loving, kind person and partner, but could also be, I would say, cruel.
Eliza was told she was bipolar, but that diagnosis didn't fit what she was experiencing. Earlier this year, Eliza started seeing a new psychiatrist. They said she had borderline personality disorder.
I didn't really know anything about borderline personality disorder. I don't think I knew anyone personally that had it.
Borderline personality disorder doesn't actually fit nicely into boxes.
Dr. Pauline Cole is a psychiatrist who treats patients with the disorder. Here she is talking about the Diagnostic and Statistical Manual for Mental Disorders. That's the holy grail of mental health conditions.
In the DSM, there are 9 criteria listed, and if one has 5 out of the 9, one can get a label of borderline personality disorder.
That means there are a lot of varied symptoms in people who are living with the disorder.
When we have 5 out of 9, that ends up with about 256 possible combinations of what the disorder can look like.
That massive variation could be why this disorder is so misunderstood. Put simply, borderline personality disorder is a complex mental health condition that can create impulsiveness, emotional instability, and trouble with relationships and self-identity.
It's emotion regulation disorder.
Sometimes sufferers are treated like they should just get over it and stop feeling what they're feeling.
Some people are born with disorders where their emotion regulation system is highly sensitive, reactive, and slow to return to baseline. And yet those people people aren't taught how to regulate their emotions.
The lack of understanding of the disorder and the stigma around it create a really difficult situation for many people who live with it.
So you're invalidated by saying you shouldn't feel that, and then you're doubly invalidated because you're also not shown how to not feel what it is you do feel.
I started experiencing BPD symptoms when I was around, earliest memory would have been 14. And I got my diagnosis when I had a psychiatric stay in a psych ward in WA.
Carissa Wright is a support worker who runs peer support groups for people with borderline personality disorder.
A mental illness where you don't have the skills and tools to be able to regulate your emotions, and you also don't have the skills and tools to cope with the distress that comes with the suicidal thoughts and self-harm.
Carissa says having the disorder can be really isolating. That's why she set up the group.
Have people sharing their stories, and it makes you feel connected and gives you some hope.
The group learns coping skills from a branch of support called dialectical behaviour therapy. Eliza's been using this therapy since she was diagnosed.
It's basically really keeping a record of your day, maybe what things might set your mood to change or make you feel a bit vulnerable or nervous, away from maybe having a panic attack, like maybe rubbing ice on your face or doing some star jumps, or you might go for a walk, have a breather.
I don't think I would be here if I didn't complete DBT.
Carissa's a big advocate of dialectical behaviour therapy too.
Yeah, it saved my life. So I'm able to use the tools and skills I learned in DBT and apply it to my everyday life. And it's completely changed my mindset. I haven't been suicidal for, I think, 2 years now.
It's important to say here that dialectical behaviour therapy is just one treatment. It might not work for everyone. And here's the rub. Specialised treatment for borderline personality disorder can be hard to come by.
18 months in the WA system here in Perth.
I've now moved to Horsham, but it looks like I would probably have to take leave to go to see my psychologist in Melbourne.
Eliza wants to destigmatise the disorder too.
Yeah, there's someone else out there that has it and they're coping okay.
There's a lot of shame and guilt when you are going through a crisis, and the way society views mental illness.
Hack on Triple J.
That's Carissa White, right? Who's a peer support worker, ending that report from Shalala Medora. Someone's texted, feeling so seen right now. Another person, I used to date someone with BPD. It can be really hard for partners. Well, let's find more about this condition. And Professor Andrew Channon is from Oregon. He does world-leading research on treating BPD in young people. Andrew, how do you know if you've got BPD and not some other mental illness?
Oh, hi, Avani. That's a really important question, and people really, the best way to find out is obviously to see a professional and get a diagnosis. But the thing that distinguishes BPD from other mental disorders is it's really a description of how the person usually is. Disorders like depression and schizophrenia are usually episodic in nature. People have periods in between their illness where they are well and well functioning. But for people with borderline personality disorder, it's actually the way they usually are. So they're usually very sensitive to interpersonal slights. They usually have a very unstable sense of who they are. They usually have very intense and volatile emotions, and their usual way of behaving is very impulsive.
Joe's called in. You have BPD, but you struggled to get a diagnosis. What was your experience?
So my experience, basically, I started showing symptoms around 15 years old, like another one of your listeners calling in, and I have been diagnosed quite a few times, and the doctors, the professionals, or so-called professionals, kept coming back to borderline personality disorder only after misdiagnosing me with bipolar. So for years and years and years on end, I've been told, oh, you've got bipolar, and they've been medicating me for it. But unfortunately, with borderline personality disorder, which is what I really have, the treatment is dialectical behavioural therapy, and the medications that they put you on can actually make you worse.
Wow, yeah, that's similar to some of the people that we were chatting to in the package before. Thanks for the call, Joe. That sounds like a really common experience, Andrew. Is it true that a lot of health professionals don't even recognise BPD as an actual condition?
It's not so much that they don't recognise it as an actual condition, but Joe illustrates one of the most important problems with this disorder, that diagnosis is usually very late and it's often very confused with other disorders. And particularly in young people, there is a real reluctance to make the diagnosis. And there's a kind of a circular problem that the disorder is really stigmatised, and that stigma comes not from the public but from professionals. And people often will be reluctant to make the diagnosis because they want to protect that person from being exposed to the stigma and the discrimination that people with BPD experience on a daily basis. So they don't make the diagnosis. People make substitute diagnoses like bipolar disorder or depression or post-traumatic stress disorder and send people down the wrong pathway. And particularly with bipolar disorder, people end up on medications, as you heard from Jo, that are ineffective and often have side effects that cause harm.
Just quickly before we let you go, what is the treatment like? I saw that South Australia's introduced a statewide treatment centre after 2 deaths of people who had BPD, but is that comparable in other states as well?
So there are now some initiatives in New South Wales. There's a Project AIR. Nationally, there's Headspace, which offers some access to treatment for BPD. And in Victoria, we have a statewide personality disorder service called Spectrum, and also Origin provides early intervention services to the west of Melbourne. So there are treatments around. I think it's a misconception that dialectical behaviour therapy is the only treatment, and in fact our research at Origin has really shown that simpler treatments can be effective, and that actually not doing some of the harmful things that happen in the health system is really the first step. And the basics of treatment, which are certainly present in dialectical behaviour therapy but present in other ones as well, are around connecting your feelings with your behaviour, focusing on the here and now, having support for the people doing the treatment, and making sure that as the treatment progresses, the person with BPD takes more responsibility for them in their life.
All right, well, thank you so much. We could talk about this for a lot longer. That's Professor Andrew Channon from Origin, and there is more information online. You can go to Say in Australia, and don't forget, if that brought up any problems for you, you can call Lifeline 13 11 14.
39 bodies found in the back of a truck. Police are now investigating this crime. They believe this is a case of mass murder.
Locked in the back of a semi-trailer, it's as cold as minus 25 degrees, and desperate to live in another country. This is how 39 people have died near London, and it's believed they were being smuggled into the UK. Now, the young truck driver has been arrested, suspected of murdering these people, and police have been questioning him over the last few hours. And there is a migrant crisis in Europe right now. This is one of the most popular ways to be smuggled, as Jo Lauder reports.
This is an absolute tragedy and very sad day for Essex Police and the local community.
That's Deputy Chief Constable Pippa Mills from Essex Police. At around 1:30 in the morning, paramedics were called to an industrial park in Essex in the UK, where they made a grim discovery of 39 bodies inside the back of a refrigerated truck.
We received reports that a number of people had been found inside a lorry's container. Early indications suggest that one of these people was a teenager. The rest are believed to be adults. A murder investigation was launched.
Police believe the container section of the truck where the bodies were found came over to England from a Belgian port, whereas the front of the truck came from Wales. At this stage, they haven't identified any of the people on board or where they came from.
The lorry and the trailer will be moved to a secure location at Hilbury Docks, so the bodies can be recovered whilst preserving the dignity of the victims. We're yet to identify them and must manage this sensitively with their families.
The driver of the truck is a 25-year-old guy from Northern Ireland known as Mo Robinson. He's been arrested on suspicion of murder, but he hasn't been charged at this stage. The British Prime Minister Boris Johnson says he's appalled.
This is an unimaginable tragedy and truly heartbreaking. I know that the thoughts and prayers of all members are with those who lost their lives and their loved ones.
And opposition leader Jeremy Corbyn says it's a tragedy.
Can we just think for a moment of what it must have been like for those 39 people, obviously in a desperate and dangerous situation, for their lives to end, suffocated to death in a container. This is an unbelievable human tragedy that happened in our country at this time.
And he's also paid tribute to the emergency services workers who were involved in the case.
All of us should just think for a moment what it's like to be a police officer or a firefighter, to open that container and have to remove 39 bodies from it and deal with them in an appropriate and humane way.
It's not yet clear if this was human trafficking or smuggling. The difference being that trafficking is where someone's taken across the border, but then they're exploited at the other end. The truck was registered in Bulgaria to an Irish driver, but the Bulgarian Prime Minister has said that the truck hasn't been in his country for 2 years, and he says it's unlikely the people were Bulgarians.
It is not possible these people were taken from Bulgaria. The trace is a British and Irish one because the truck is there and the people are there.
Bulgaria has become a popular route for migrants coming from the Middle East through Turkey or Greece and into the country. From there, they're then smuggled into Europe. And it's not the first time this kind of thing has happened. In 2014, an Afghan migrant was found dead at another dock in Essex, and there were another 34 Afghan people in the shipping container that he died in. And in 2000, 58 Chinese migrants were found suffocated to death in a truck in Dover. Back at the industrial estate where these 39 people were found dead, a nearby resident told journalists that he's seen other people coming out of lorries at the same spot.
I've seen 6 people getting out of the back of a lorry in the same location. My best friend's seen people running out of a lorry and scattering in all directions. It seems everybody's had experience that I know, especially in that area in particular. It just seems to be a thing that no one seems to care about.
Hack, Triple J. Joe Lauder with that story. Now, Dr. Marie Seagrave is a criminologist at Monash University, and she's been researching the people smuggling trade. Marie, this is such a horrific story. Is it common for people to get in the back of a truck to be smuggled into the UK or anywhere in Europe?
It's clearly more common than the Prime Minister of Britain suggested, saying that it's unimaginable. We know that this has happened before. We know that people are seeking any kind of opportunity they can access to cross borders. So the extent to which it's happening in lorries is very difficult to identify. The UNODC has estimated that around 2.5 million people are smuggled globally, which is a very difficult thing to estimate. But it's happening frequently, and I think there's a sense here that this is a rare occurrence and a tragedy, which it is, but it's definitely not a rare occurrence.
And Marie, where are the people coming from? We know there's a European migrant crisis happening at the moment, so why are they so desperate to get into countries like the UK?
Well, there's a whole range of reasons, of course. We've seen people fleeing places like Syria and seeking asylum, trying to make their way through the Balkan route and find safe haven for themselves and for their families. There's many reasons why people wish to migrate. Some are seeking a better life, some are seeking to protect themselves and their family because they are under threat. So there's many reasons. We don't know the reasons in this case, of course, what the circumstances were, but we know that there are many people who are seeking to migrate to find safety, and that not everybody has the opportunity to do that. Not everybody can access safe and fair migration opportunities, and the consequence of that is people doing anything they can to cross a border, and these kinds of situations aren't uncommon.
All right, Dr. Marie Seagrave, who is a criminologist at Monash University. She's been researching the people smuggling trade. Thank you so much for shedding light on this issue. We know that it is also an issue in Australia. Bridget Huswaite is up next on Good Nights. I'll catch you tomorrow. See ya.
Me Too lawsuit. Hey, it's Husnia Shams with Triple J News. A public hearing in Sydney has been told shopkeepers at Splendour in the Grass were among those strip-searched by police in a military-style operation. Nick Dole has more.
The Law Enforcement Conduct Commission is examining the behaviour of police at last year's Splendour in the Grass festival. A solicitor working at the event, Tracy Randall, says police strip-searched shopkeepers who'd been handling cash that may have contained traces of drugs.
When they were leaving and then returning, they'd be picked up by the sniffer dogs and strip-searched. It's been incredibly invasive.
Ms Randall says police were also telling young people found with drugs that if they pleaded guilty, they'd escape a conviction. She said that was inappropriate advice and it wasn't always true.
The federal government's plan for a national facial recognition database has been sent back to the drawing board. Parliament's Joint Intelligence Committee says the legislation needs to be reworked to make sure people's rights are respected. Deputy Chair Labor MP Mark Dreyfus says it contains almost no limitations.
Labor and Liberal members of the committee are uniting to recommend that the Identity Matching Services Bill be completely redrafted and referred back to the Intelligence and Security Committee for further inquiry when it is reintroduced.
Overseas, British police are continuing to question a man over the discovery of 39 bodies in the back of a truck. The bodies were found yesterday after the truck arrived in Essex from Belgium. The 25-year-old driver was arrested on suspicion of murder. This Essex resident says it's common knowledge among locals that people smuggling could be happening in the area.
I've seen 6 people getting out of the back of a lorry in the same location. My best friend's seen people running out of the lorry and scattering in all directions.
US President Donald Trump says he's lifting the sanctions he imposed on Turkey over its offensive against the Kurds in northern Syria. He says Turkey's ceasefire is now permanent. The 2-week offensive has seen dozens of people killed, while more than 100,000 have fled their homes. Hollywood actress Rose McGowan has filed a federal lawsuit against disgraced film producer Harvey Weinstein and 2 of his former lawyers. She's accused them of trying to silence her before she made rape allegations. The suit says that the trio, along with an Israeli intelligence firm, conspired to defraud and smear Miss McGowan. Mr. Weinstein's lawyer has called the charges baseless. Her accusations against the producer helped start the Me Too movement 2 years ago. To sport now, and in rugby league, Josh Papali has passed a fitness test and will play for Australia in tomorrow night's match against New Zealand in Wollongong. The star forward had been struggling with a rib injury. That's all the news right across Australia. Triple J.
New tunes you're hearing now on Triple J. Jack River and her single called Later Flight. English rapper H with Taste, Make It Shake. We love new music. Triple G. Good nights. Good nights.
With Bridget Husway.
On Triple J.
That's right. So you know what it means. It is time to get some hot new music on the radio, and I want to know what you want to hear. What is the best new jam out there right now? Hit me up on the text line 0439 75 7555. And hey, very exciting day for fans of DMAs. The boys are back. They dropped off a new tune to Ben and Liam just this morning. It's their first single since last year's For Now album, and I'm so keen to hear if you think it is a strong return for DMAs. They're up a little later on, but in just a few minutes.
I was bad, now I'm better, I was sad, now I'm better, looking back, I know you were not good.
Wapia, and I'm not talking about her super recent collab with Lewis the Child and Weathen. I am talking about a brand spanking new song that no one has heard yet, but you are getting the premiere. So that is coming up in just a matter of minutes. But here's Halsey to kick things off. Graveyard. And you're on Triple J.
It's crazy when the thing you love the most is the detriment, and let that sink in. Think again, the hand you wanna hold is a weapon and nothing but skin. Oh, 'cause I keep digging myself down deep, I won't stop till I get where you are. I keep running, I keep look at me. God is so dark, don't know what you push right through me. It's getting real. You lock the door, you drunk, I can feel you, and I can't conceal. Oh, 'cause I've been digging myself down deeper. I won't stop till I get where you are. I keep running, I keep running, I keep running. They say I may be making a mistake. I would have followed all the way, no matter how hard. I know when you go down all your darkest roads, I would have followed all the way to the graveyard. Oh, 'cause I keep taking myself down deeper. I won't stop till I get where you are. I keep running with all my feet hurt. I won't stop till I get where you are. When you go down all your darkest roads, I would have followed all the way to the graveyard. It's funny how warning signs can feel like the butterflies. Oh, 'cause I keep taking myself down deeper. I won't stop till I get where you are. I keep running with all my feet hurt. I won't stop till I get where you are. When you go down all your darkest roads, I would have followed all the way to the graveyard.
Want to hear a new song you're into? Text Bridget 0439 757 555. This is Good Night on Triple J.
Hey, it's Emma from Melbourne. I'd love to hear Cricket Happen Part 2 by Slowly Slowly. I've been listening to the guide since 2015. It's so crazy how fast it grows in such little time. Thanks, Bridget.
Thank you for the white dress. The game is over. Got pretty handsome for it. Think about your races. Stay undercover. Wearing sad it's over. Anybody gets who stress gets less stress. Crocodile tears just make you regret. Pretty little daisies all on your tombstone. Calling all the ups and free. Not sorry. Somebody believes in me. I wanna feel incomplete. Just tell me that somebody believes in me. There's no way that's no inside. No reason for me to shine. Even if I were given a petition, I just tell me that somebody believes in me. There's no way that's no red sign. No reason for me to shine. Even if I were given a petition, I just tell me that somebody believes in me.
listening to Triple J.
San Francisco, where's your disco? San Francisco, where's your disco?
I was supposed to go out there for like a semester of college, and I ended up never leaving. It's that energy on the dance floor that I think has, helps house music completely thrive from there. There's definitely like the leftover hippie vibes from the 60s and 70s, I think. It's just a great place to go out. There's something going on every night.
San Francisco, where's your disco?
Supposed to go out there for like a semester of college, and I ended up never leaving. It's that energy on the dance floor that I think has, helps house music completely thrive from there. There's definitely like the leftover hippie vibes from the 60s and 70s, I think. It's just a great place to go out. There's something going on every night. People are fun. It's just, I love it.
San Francisco, where's your disco? San Francisco, where's your disco?
A good song to wash the dishes to, according to Carlos from Rowville. Yeah, cut some shapes in the kitchen, mate. It is Dom Dolla, San Francisco on Triple J. You also heard from Slowly, Creature of Habit Part 2, getting some love on the text line. Emma from Melbourne requesting it tonight. And we kicked off with Halsey, who will be here over New Year's, bringing some hot new tracks set to feature off her upcoming record. That one.
Ultimate luxury. Geez, you could dress up for Halloween here. different. Ultimate luxury.
Stick around. And if I feel low, could you take me higher? And if I get way too high, would you talk me down? 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 Would you talk me down?
On Triple J, that is the premiere of Flowers and Superpowers. It is fresh music from Wafia.
And if I get way too high, would you talk me down? Would you talk me down? Would you talk me down? Would you talk me down?
And that's from Canberra. I love this on the text line. She said, let me get high AF with you, Wafia. Love you, mummy. And everyone loving it. Saying, oh, this is, I don't know if I can even say this, magical. Makes me want to have some things. That's all I'm saying. Another texter loving it while they're waiting the garden, watering the garden. You guys are on a trip too. My goodness. Magical stuff from Wafia. It is brand new music. And yeah, like straight up, it is about her getting high after having some edibles and being with the guy, the person that she loves, and trying to be, you know, taken down, and just they still love her, and it's beautiful and it's very cute. So brand new music from Wafia on Triple J. Looks like you're loving it on the Triple J app as well. Lots of fire. A couple of flame emojis hitting that. And yeah, if you like it, don't forget she's touring across Jan. She's doing some headline dates in Perth, Melbourne, Sydney and Brisbane. Fresh Film Listen Out Festival and gearing up for those headline shows. Brand new Wafia for your Thursday night. My name is Bridget. Real soon we're going to hear from East, and this is Post Malone, who I heard was showering a crowd the other night with $70,000 of just bills. Anyway, this is Circles.
Too proud.
Run away if you can, unless they've strapped you to a trestle. And then you can't run away, you're trapped. Helpless. Not all criminals are loners. Sometimes the criminals are the authorities. Sometimes the criminals are the authorities. Sometimes the lawbreakers are the authorities. Sometimes they're just delinquents, hoodlums, like the arsonists, firebugs. Daniel and Samuel, the twins, in Red Rain, they're 12 years old. Delinquent 12-year-olds. You do get them. Usually they're older. But Red Rain's just a story, it's just a novel. So Daniel and Samuel are not even real. Fictional characters, identical twins in a story.
And online 24/7. Hit us up on Facebook, Instagram, or the Triple J website.
Something about you makes me feel hectic. We're in your room, it's so electric. I'm really glad we left the party. I'm really glad you wanna keep talking. I don't want sleep, I wanna talk deep all night. You light a joint and we both smoke and you make a point. I think you're joking, we're kinda close. You moving closer, don't wanna go. Think I'll stay over. I don't want sleep, I wanna talk deep all night. You're looking at me and I can't believe my eyes. Lying in your bed, losing track of time. You say what's in your head, you say what's in your mind. I'm already stoned, you're getting me high. Little do you know, you're setting me on fire. I don't wanna sleep, I wanna talk deep all night. Yeah, I don't wanna sleep, I wanna talk deep all night. Something about you makes me feel hectic. We're in your room, it's so electric. I'm really glad we left the party. I'm really glad you wanna keep talking. I don't want sleep, I wanna talk deep all night. You're looking at me, I can't believe my eyes. Lying in your bed, losing track of time. You say what's in your head, you say what's in your mind. I'm already stoned, you're getting me high. Little do you know, you're setting me on fire. I don't wanna sleep, I wanna talk deep all night. Yeah, I don't wanna sleep, I wanna talk deep all night.
Triple J. Everything Not Saved Will Be Lost Part 2 is the latest album from Folks. The UK band began 2019.
Everything not saved will be lost. It's true. So who's going to save the DJ? From the sadists in Singapore, the sadists who tortured the DJ, are like the twins, Daniel and Samuel. Torturers.
They say that love is so